Let me adjust the sound. How's everyone feeling right now? Is it okay now? Let's start the lesson now. First of all, I would like to have a short introduction of this CCIE exam. As most of you joined our lesson, I assume most of you already passed the CISCO CCIE written exam. So all of you have completed the CISCO CCIE exam, right? Actually, it's not difficult for the CCIE lab exams too. No matter one set of questions coming this year or two additional set of questions coming next year, what I feel is this kind of routine repeated task can be done by familiarize all the exam content and know them by heart. There is no interview session. It will be easier to pass. Actually, this exam is a routine repeated task, but you have to be familiarized with all the theory behind in order to pass the lab exam. You must be familiarized all the theory behind and understand what is the purpose of troubleshooting. Okay, let's continue. I suggest to finish the written exam first, which I believe you have already passed the written exam. The written exam is 1000 marks and 825 marks will consider pass. For written exam, the validation period of the written exam is 3 years. All of you can check again when you finish the written exam and check when is the validation period ends. When is the ending date? The validation period started when you pass the exam, which is 3 years. So all of you please check again on your own. Lab exam will be the next coming session after you pass the written exam. Next portion, we will mainly focus on lab portion. There are no marks for labs because there is no mark allocated for it. If you're still considering mark for this portion, 100 marks in total, 80 marks will be the passing grade. 80 marks will consider pass. Of course, there are multiple modules for this lab. During the exam, there are two major modules. There are two big modules in total, which is Module 1 and Module 2. For Module 1, basically it is similar to your written exam, which you completed earlier. It is similar to the written exam. There are 39 questions inside Module 1. Please take note there are 39 questions in total. For these 39 questions, it involves multiple choice questions, MCQ, MCQ and true or false question, these two types, or topology diagram. This portion mainly focuses on MCQ and true or false question. 39 questions, 39 marks. But CISCO didn't mention about the mark of the question. We can consider it one question, one mark. So it is 39 marks, which is about 40 marks. That's all about Module 1. Module 2 is called Deployment and Optimization. Module 1 is Design portion. Kindly take note, Module 1 is Design portion. The design portion is based on scenario. Please take note it is based on the scenario. What is called scenario? CISCO will send you an email for each question. This email will be displayed on your screen. For this email, you need to understand the content of this email. For example, the summary of this email could be CISCO will act as a client and you will be in charge of the network implementation and test. As a network technical person, CISCO will ask you some questions. The email will describe the current network status and ask you to provide some feedback. What are the suggestions to improve the current network environment? This Module 1 is based on the real life situation. First of all, there will be an email. From this email, you need to figure out what is the current network issue, what are the better suggestions. Next will be selection. Please take note this will be in English. Of course, during the exam, you don't have to worry too much about this scenario. Don't focus too much on it. Just memorize the answer. Normally, you will memorize the answers. It is MCQ or true or false question, which is similar to the written exam, but the sequence will be changed. Please take note, Module 1 exam will be in the morning. For CISCO exam session in the morning, normally for CISCO exam, need to report to exam center by 8 a.m. in the morning. But normally, exam will start at 8:15. You can consider the exam started at 8:15 in the morning. Normally, candidates should arrive before 7:50 a.m. and exam will start at 8:15. Exam will start with Module 1. Module 1 will be around 2.5 hours, but you can finish early and submit early. You can enter Module 2 after early submission of Module 1. Module 2 is deployment and optimization. Morning is mainly design. Afternoon will be deployment and optimization. But of course, for the afternoon session, you can start early. Total exam time is 8 hours. Please take note, it's 8 hours in total. After TS session is diagnose session. Once diagnose session finished, configuration session would start in the afternoon. For the current CCIE syllabus, troubleshooting session is removed, means no troubleshooting session. The diagnose session is different from previous one. Previously, diagnose session was easier, around 4 to 5 questions. For the morning part, the design portion is 39 questions. All of you can consider it as MCQ or true or false question. We will talk more about the Module 1 later. You can memorize all the questions and answers 1 week before the exam. Module 2 is very important. Which is a huge amount of lab sessions in the Module 2. There are 3 parts in Module 2. First part is routing and switching related content, including STP, VLAN, trunk, VRRP, link detection, OSPF, BGP, EIGRP, IPv6, MPLS, multicasting, and all the knowledge included in the routing and switching part. Basically, this part is similar to CCIE 5.0 in 2019. CCIE 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 had this portion too. These topics are covered in previous syllabus. The second part will be covered on SDN and SDW related topics. This part will be done on the browser. The last part will be the network programming and automation. You can consider the last part as optimization. Next, I will briefly explain further about all the points mentioned here. This solution from ThinkMore released on 16 June after a few modifications. So I roughly went through the solution. Basically, for the content inside, first portion everyone should have learned before. If you followed all the theory lesson, almost all the routing and switching content are covered in the lessons, almost all the topics. Just now, we were seeing the routing and switching portion, which is the first module. Now, let's go to the Module 2. Let's take a look at Module 2 now. There are 3 parts inside Module 2. Routing, switching, SD, SW, and automation programming. Let's take a look at routing and switching. For the next few sessions, we will still mainly focus on routing and switching. SD and SW and network automation will be slowly added in. For this part, when the exam date is closer, we will share you all the questions and answers. You can memorize 1 week before the exam. Let's take a look at the Module 2 routing and switching content, which is Session 1. Session 1 is routing and switching part. Session 2 is SD-SW part. The amount is lesser compared to Session 1. Don't confused by the multiple solutions. Actually, the amount is lesser. And the last part, which is the third part, network automation programming. We cannot say this part is easy because there are a large amount of code. Let's take a look at the first part. First part is routing and switching. All of you can go through it quickly and see what are the technical knowledge involved. For routing and switching, there will be 16 sub-questions, but you can consider 15 questions. First question is a welcome banner. You can ignore it. From 1.2 to 1.16, it covered CCNP routing and CCNP switching, and all the CCIE theory. It involves routing and switching. Here is VRRP, trunk SLA, link detection, OSPF, DNCP, DHCP, EIGRP, BGP, MPLS VPN related. VPN is VPN 6. Furthermore, this part is DMVPV. These are the content in our CCIE lessons. This is also DMVPN. The content below basically is routing and switching content. This is a major part. HKO is a region name. I will show you that diagram later. This is the entire routing and switching portion. Let's settle this portion first. After finish this portion, we will talk more about the second and third portion. Kindly take note. I only did a few parts. Think more divided the solution into a multiple PDF file. I will send you all the questions, solutions, and all lab environment which covered in each lesson to our group chat at the end of each lesson. For this PDF, I will send to the group chat too. Kindly take note. There is a password for the PDF file, which is think more. By the way, the lab environment is EVE. Of course, only EVE is not enough. What lab can covered by EVE? It can handle routing and switching labs in Module 2, which means all of the Section 1 can be done using this EVE. For Section 2 and 3, we need to use the real devices. First of all, we need to settle routing and switching portion because this is the basic and fundamental. You have to make sure the routing is working first before proceed to other tasks. Need to do this first. For this lab environment, we will send you the directory to your group chat so everyone can download it. After this, install into VMware. Already sent, right? So all of you can install this into VMware. One suggestion before installation, for this lab environment, when you import into VMware, we recommended this VMware version is 16.0. Of course, this is only a suggestion. If you don't want to use 16.0, you need to use 15.0. I cannot say it doesn't work. We suggest to use 16.0 version. Of course, we will send you this VMware installation package followed by the registration code. For the lab environment involved Excel, I'll send to the group chat later. We have learned Excel theory lesson. We'll be familiarized with this. For VNC will be used for the entire lab environment. I will open the topology diagram to show you where need to use VNC. We can see there are some Linux machines, which is a desktop version. To those desktop Linux machines, we need to use VNC to open them. PuTTY will be used during exam. Our lesson will be using Excel. PuTTY is not user-friendly here because PuTTY cannot combine windows. When you're doing labs, you need to open multiple small windows. I recommend when everyone start practicing, remember to use Excel. When the exam date is closer, you can start using PuTTY to practice 1 to 2 weeks. This is a lab environment. Please also allocate the memory according to your PC hardware specification. How big is your computer RAM? We suggest to allocate 16GB. Allocate 8GB or 12GB to VM. If your computer only have 8GB RAM, I also tested, it also can run. But don't open all the devices at one time. All of you can take a look at this diagram. I will open this lab environment. Give me a second. 192.168.18.3. Let me log in. This address is allocated by DHCP. We can allocate a VM VNet network interface card. Allocate VM VNet 1 and see what is the address obtained by EIE. Make sure it is having the same NIC address with VNet 1. Once NIC address are the same, you can manage and access it. If it's not the same, we cannot manage it. This is a basic part of EVE. After you log in, it looks like this. The first time log into it looks like this. How come there are devices not being shut down? Hold on, let me shut down the devices. It looks like Lab 3. Yes, it is similar to the Lab 3 in 2019. When you log in this window, it looks like this. Please take note this EVE username and password. This password is the same as the EVE username password which you used before. EVE NG Lab environment. Username and password. Admin and EVE. It is the same as before. Nothing special on it. There might be some special devices appears in the lab environment. Such as vManage, vSmart, vH. Their username and password are admin. We'll talk about it more later at the configuration diagram. Let me show you the entire topology diagram. This part. I allocated larger RAM. When you allocate RAM, most of you are doing it on your own computer. You can allocate 8GB or 12GB. And I recommend everyone do not click this open all button. Don't click this start all node. But I can open because this device can handle. If your computer RAM is not big enough, don't click that position. How should you do? You should open part by part. For example, first and second question only involve devices in this circle. Once these devices under this circle, don't open the rest. For the questions 3 and 4, which involves this part, then you can open this part separately. Then open them part by part separately. Don't open it all. If you open it all, system will be crashed. For the first part, the entire routing and switching portion, there are no relationship for the first 10 questions. So you don't have to open it for below devices. Clear? These devices below don't have to turn on first. Initially, when you start doing the lab, open this portion first. The first question which using these devices, you see currently my machine is a bit slow, right? It doesn't have a fast speed on turning on machine. Let's wait for it. At this time, we can take a look at that diagram. What happened? Did you ask how many RAM did I allocate? I allocated 16GB. You can allocate 8GB also works. Actually, for the routers and switches inside, will not have huge RAM usage. Most of the content are under this portion. Now, this environment is under Module 2 section part. Let's quickly have a look on this diagram. Headquarters in the entire environment is called HQ. Just now someone asking what is the meaning of HQ, right? HQ means headquarters. It belongs to BGP AS 65501. It's running OSPF. IPv4 OSPF. Also, this region also involves IPv6 EIGRP. This IPv4 subnet under this region is 10.1.0.0/16. This part is 10.2.0.0/16. This part is 10.3.0.0/16. Then the next part, left side is 10.4.0.0/16, 10.5.0.0/16, 10.6.0.0/16. Furthermore, will be 10.7.0.0/16. It is symmetric for the entire diagram. Looks familiar, right? Of course, what I mean familiar is, when you guys in 2019, if you guided by me for the exam preparation session, you will be familiar with that diagram. It doesn't matter if you didn't join the exam preparation session. The exam question inside, although it is similar, but there are some differences. Also, for the device in the middle, some devices are invisible, such as VH, vManager, vBond, vSmart. For these devices, you will not use them during routing and switching part. Of course, you can open them. You can open them first. DNAC need to use the real devices. This is the simulation one. Please take note, this is not a real device. You can ignore it first. You can choose not open it when you turn on the machine, because it needs to connect to the real devices. Eyes also need to use real devices. These two portions, you can ignore it for now. Other portions need to make sure the routing all works. When you add section 2 and section 3, we will provide you a real lab environment. For the first routing and switching portion, we will fully rely on the EVE to simulate the environment. So the first part don't need to use a real device, right? Cannot see clearly on the IP. So how long does it take to learn for the first part? I estimate around 3 weeks. For routing and switching portion, it depends on your understanding and level. What is the remote rack? Please check with lecturer Huba later after the class. How's the thing inside? Familiar? Yes. For the entire routing and switching, it is not that difficult. Let me show you the first question. What is the first question about? There are pre-configuration inside. We cannot see the entire pre-configuration. It could be hard for you to remember them all for the entire configuration. However, you can remember them when you're doing the labs. There are pre-configuration inside, and some of them are wrong. You need to correct them. Please take note there are pre-configuration inside, it will be the same during the exam. But pre-configuration can be wrong. You need to correct them. The pre-configuration might be wrong. Please take note this point. Not excluding, but it has mistake. Because it is purposely configured wrongly to let you correct. Okay, let's start the question 1.